Decoding Buddhism. Decoding the Enigmatic Teachings of the Buddha. Part 2. A Soul's Journey. Introduction. There are many paths that lead to enlightenment, but only a few acknowledge the soul's evolution across lifetimes. Gautama's search for answers did not begin with his life as Siddhartha Gautama, but in the distant past with a much older tale, a story well loved by all Buddhists, yet due to the Anatta doctrine, rarely understood as the journey of the soul. The Buddha himself never spoke directly about the soul, for he knew the dangers of such discussions in his time. Yet, as an ascended master in our age, he both revealed and confirmed the truth and reality of the soul, stating that the world was not ready for that understanding when he walked the earth. It is time to remedy this omission by revisiting the story from a more complete perspective, one that acknowledges the soul's long journey through numerous lifetimes, ever refining itself in pursuit of Buddhahood. Before Siddhartha became the Buddha, before he was even a prince, there was another, a seeker, a wanderer, a soul in search of truth. This story begins long before he took his first breath in Kapilavastu. It begins with a man who makes a vow and has a moment of self-realization so powerful that it sets the course for all his future lives. The Buddha taught that the soul's journey unfolds gradually over many embodiments moving towards spiritual awakening, compassion, and wisdom, culminating in a state of perfection. Here, in Part 2, we will explore the virtues that led him toward Buddhahood, known as the 10 perfections or the 10 paramitas, that all Buddhas have cultivated, and how karma and reincarnation weave together the soul's gradual ascent. At first glance, this might seem like a contradiction. How can lasting perfection emerge within an impermanent, ever-changing reality? And how can an imperfect being, bound by that impermanence, ever attain perfection? As I went deeper into this mystery, I discovered that the answer lies in what the Buddha called the graduated path, a compassionate design by God for the soul, allowing perfection to unfold gradually, even within an impermanent world. We are not expected to be perfect in a single lifetime, but to grow into it through stages, refining our virtues across many incarnations. Each perfect act, however small, becomes a stepping stone on this path, contributing to the soul's ascent. Gautama taught that this gradual perfection is best achieved through the practice of his accelerated Noble Eightfold Path and/or the 10 paramitas, the path of all Buddhas. I also found that this striving for perfection in Buddhism is not imposed upon us, nor is it concerned with human perfection, but rather with the gradual refinement of the citta, the heart-mind, through karma balancing and by shedding illusions in order to awaken to its true nature. The liberation of the citta is not the result of a single aha moment, nor is it achieved solely through the intellect or learned moral behaviors. True perfection is achieved by applying these Buddhic virtues to every aspect of our lives, infusing them with the love of the heart through compassion and demonstrating our mastery of them over time. It begins with attaining right understanding that leads to enlightened wisdom or prajna. From there, it extends into the more tangible aspects of thought, feeling, word, and deed, refined through karma-erasing activity. Meditation alone does not resolve or balance the karma of lifetimes past, nor do learned acts of benevolence performed in rote. Only when these actions are infused with our heart's love do they bridge the gap between imperfection and perfection. In this way, through compassion, virtues are perfected, transforming and liberating the citta from samsara. This is why the pursuit of the 10 perfecting virtues is inseparable from the graduated path. Each virtue must be cultivated through right understanding and karma balancing practices, freeing the citta from the need to be reborn. Many religions and spiritual traditions limit the graduated path to a single lifetime. This belief leaves little room for growth, free will, or karmic correction, as we are led to believe that we have only one life to attain self-realization, or be lost forever. By contrast, in Eastern traditions, where karma and reincarnation are integral to the soul's journey, we find that perfection unfolds in stages. This framework gives the soul a fighting chance, an opportunity within time and space to exercise free will, not only to do good but also to err, without being irredeemably lost or deemed an outcast for having made some karma. Through this process of trial and error, we gradually learn to distinguish reality from illusion and right from wrong, provided we still possess a conscience. What makes this concept so profound is that we don't have to be perfect in every moment or else. It is not a do-or-die proposition. Instead, we have time and opportunity on our side to work toward liberation, unfolding over many lives. Yet, the journey requires vigilance. While it allows for mistakes and course correction, we must not procrastinate or become too entangled in the cycle of becoming. The key is to engage in this journey with right intention, Sama Sunkappa, rather than slipping into complacency. For this reason, the Buddha taught the middle way as a graduated path, Anupubbha Pachipada. What you are about to read is not merely the story of one soul's journey. It is the story of all who walk the path of liberation. It is a path open to you, to me, and to all who dare to search for the truth beyond the illusions and impermanence of this world. This is more than a study of Buddhism. You are embarking on a journey, rediscovering a lost thread of an ancient way, one that has guided souls toward their highest potential for ages. It's a story of great significance, one that may awaken something deep within your own soul. Perhaps you too will one day decide to join the bodhisattvas of the past, present, and future, and carve your own path through time. And so, the story of a very special soul begins, the soul of Sumedha. Chapter 6. The Life of Sumedha. Before Siddhartha Gautama entered history to become the Buddha, the Enlightened One, he was known as Sumedha in a previous life of long ago. Gautama's story as Sumedha is the story of his soul, and likewise the story of all souls, yours and mine. We are all travelers through time and space, moving from kingdom to kingdom and life to life, unraveling and resolving the karma that we ourselves have sown. You may ask, what is the purpose of the transmigrating soul, which endlessly needs to come back, time and again? Does this journey truly lead somewhere, and will it ever get better than this? Even Gautama, a wealthy prince who had everything and wanted for nothing, asked himself these questions, as we shall see. The concept of reincarnation, a central tenet in Hindu philosophy, was revealed to us in 3 of the early Upanishads, in early Jainism, and possibly in the oral tradition of the Bhagavad Gita, before Gautama appeared on the world scene. This concept embodies the idea that we are on a mission requiring many lifetimes to complete. In this quest, our task is to perfect the soul. Yet, we accumulate negative karma along the way and often lose sight of our true purpose due to the veils of Maya. In the India of Gautama's time, many Brahmins still adhered to the older view of karma found in the Brahmanas, where karma was ritualistic in nature, rooted in sacrificial performance and priestly precision rather than personal morality. While the Upanishads had already begun to shift karma toward an inner, ethical dimension, it was the Buddha who clearly redefined karma as intention rather than ritual, stating, "It is volition that I call karma." With this, he became the foremost teacher of a moral, cause and effect universe, grounded not in offerings to the gods, but in the purity of one's thoughts, speech, and actions. This is why God sends the enlightened ones to us, from time to time, to remind us of our divine nature, to reconnect us with the real self, and to help us remember the real reasons for our being here. Thus, our journey is to fulfill our mission, become karma-free, and achieve final liberation from samsara, attaining oneness with the eternal. In the Upanishads we read, quote, "The secret of immortality is to be found in purification of the heart, in meditation and realization of the identity of the Atman, the self within and Brahman without. For immortality is simply union with God." End quote. Although the path may seem straightforward at first, Sumedha's story reveals how desires, attachments, and karma make the journey more challenging than it appears. Bodhicitta, igniting the consciousness of the heart, the soul's awakening to the path of Buddhahood. Have you ever had a moment when you realize, in a flash, a higher truth about the nature of reality? It's one of those moments when you come to a full stop within, and everything around you seems more vibrant and full of life. It is as if you are looking at everything from the outside, as an impartial observer, and not part of the unfolding play of existence. Suddenly, you see things more clearly as you grasp that profound insight into reality. It is an experience beyond the ego, when something within you awakens, opening a new plane of understanding that becomes accessible to you. These moments of insight are bodhicitta moments, when both heart and mind awaken to the Buddha consciousness within, and the heart is ignited with a newfound desire for truth. This experience is like that instant when your heart skips a beat as your mind grasps this profound insight, awakening you from the sleep of the ages, the sleep of ignorance, avidya. Suddenly, your awareness bursts forth, exclaiming, "Aha! I am alive, I am awake, and I am aware that I am real." This is the awakening to Buddhahood, the inner resonance that declares, "I can become a Buddha too, an enlightened one, as I carry the seed potential of awakening, Tathagatagarbha, and the eternal essence of the enlightened one within me, Buddha Dhatu." This moment is often accompanied by a sense of relief, joy, and inner peace. Then, before you know it, you realize that this journey is not yours alone, nor is it meant solely for your own benefit. Perhaps it is time to become a bodhisattva, to walk the path and share its wisdom with others. As you delve into Sumedha's story, allow it to unfold within you. It may stir a soul memory, awaken a dormant part of your consciousness, or recall insights once held in a distant past. Perhaps it will resonate with your present journey, revealing deeper reasons for your being here in this life and strengthening your resolve to rediscover the homeward path. Sumedha's experiences hold hidden keys capable of unlocking higher awareness and igniting the flame of inner seeing and knowing. His story serves as a gateway to your own Buddhic awakening, illuminating the path that has always been yours to walk. Bodhicitta moments are regarded in Buddhism as the goal of all practice until you reach complete awakening. From Sumedha's story, we learn about the struggles he faced, the journey that led to his ultimate triumph over suffering and the lesser self, and how he discovered answers to many of life's pressing questions. The path to your awakening is not a single moment of triumph over failure, but a journey that unfolds gradually, step by step. This is known in Buddhism as the graduated path, one that does not demand instant perfection but instead calls for steady progress, year after year and life after life, as virtues are cultivated and wisdom is deepened. Just as Sumedha's vow and every act of virtue of selflessness carried him through many incarnations toward Buddhahood, so too can these shape and strengthen your journey. We learn from Sumedha that we benefit greatly by striving in earnest, with constancy and faith, knowing that no effort is ever lost. As all good words and deeds are recorded in the Akashic field, they leave a record of victory in life, a record of our triumphs over ignorance, greed, and avarice. The good karma we perform outweighs the negative karma by leaps and bounds, for in the end, good always triumphs over evil. Each good and perfect act is recorded in the causal body of the Dharmakaya, the real and perduring self, which can be understood as the soul's cosmic bank account that increases over lifetimes. This is how we perfect the soul gradually, according to the ascended masters. Knowing this, we find both hope and strength to keep striving. Even in times of doubt or failure, the path remains beneath our feet, waiting for us to take the next step. What did not work, we shrug off as we walk on with sincerity and perseverance, until, in time, we reach the summit of being. Sumedha, who later became Gautama, was a forerunner, showing us that transformation is possible. Through his example, he opened the door of possibilities for all humankind. Now, we can embrace what he learned and apply Gautama's accelerated method to achieve liberation, sparing ourselves the ordeal of figuring it all out on our own. This is the boon we receive from Gautama, as he offers us the accelerated path homeward. Sumedha's journey. Quote, Sumedha, the archetype of humanity and Buddhic exemplar, slowly rose out of the mud. His soul rejoiced as he contemplated the magnificent path of self-mastery unto Buddhahood. End quote. In a far and distant past, Sumedha, a wealthy young Brahmin, enjoyed both wealth and status in the prosperous city called Amaravati, the famed abode of the immortals, a place of gods and holy men, of beauty and delights. Yet, ironically, like all mortals, his parents passed away, leaving him their great wealth, accumulated over 7 generations. Sumedha exclaimed, "Alas, my father and mother and generations of relatives have gone to the gods, and have not taken even a single coin with them. Although I have received this great wealth, I too am bound to die." He reflected long upon the ills of life and the misery of living, suffering, and repeated rebirths. He thought to himself, "Is there any escape from this wretched round of birth and death? Is there a place of safety where birth and death are vanquished by immortality?" Eventually, he overcame his doubts and thought instead, there must be, an escape from all this woe and pain. I will make the search. I will discover the way that leads to freedom and release." Having pondered the advantages of retiring from the world, the wise Sumedha gave away his immense hoard of treasure to the impoverished, to wayfarers, and to the wealthy alike, according to their needs. When this task was complete, he found contentment, and thus renounced the world with all its pleasures, both material and sensual, declaring to himself, "Let me depart, regretting nothing and wanting nothing." Sumedha then left the city of Amaravati to become a religious recluse, a hermit. He built himself a hut of poles and leaves on the hill of Dhammaka, by the snow-capped mountains of Himavat. He was searching for the way of escape. After no long time, but with strenuous efforts, he mastered both the virtues of morality and meditation, gaining high spiritual powers. One day, he learned from a group of travelers passing through that the mighty Buddha Dipankara has appeared, Lord of all the world, and he is coming to the area of Ramavati. "We have invited him to preach to us," the travelers said. At the sound of the word Buddha, Sumedha's heart leaped in exultation. "Ah, Buddha!" he uttered excitedly. "Now is the time to sow some good seed. I must not let this opportunity slip me by." Sumedha joined the group to see if he could also meet this great Buddha and his entourage of arhats. As the Buddha Dipankara approached, they all greeted the hero with shouts and drums and cleared the way for him. Sumedha's mind was racing with thoughts while trying to find a place to meet the mighty Dipankara. With so many people around, it was hard to find a spot, and so he begged for a small section of the road as Dipankara was nearing. He was offered an uneven spot, a mud hole that no one wanted. Best he could, he tried to even the spot out while rejoicing and thinking to himself, "What if I were to lie down in the mud, having made a bridge of my very self for the hero Dipankara and his entourage to tread upon? If I can keep the mud from touching the Buddha, certainly great merits will result to last me a long time." A moment later, Sumedha laid himself face down in the mud, exclaiming to all, "Let the Buddha with all his arhats tread upon me." Then he thought again, "This could be a way for me to burn up all my faults and karmas in one day, and if I so wished, after slaying the endless battle of existence, I could enter nirvana." Upon further thought, "Why should I enter nirvana that fast without helping others? I will first achieve omniscience and become a supreme Buddha myself. Then, I will carry the people across the ocean of existence with the boat of Dharma and bring both men and gods to yonder shore." After reflecting thus, while lying in the mud like a very lovely banana trunk, he radiated beautifully. Dipankara, knower of all worlds, stepped up to where Sumedha lay and stayed his foot. Able to read Sumedha's heart, mind, and soul, he surveyed his life and his previous existences, immediately perceiving Sumedha's great attainment, and foresaw his destiny to become a bridge for the world. Dipankara then turned his face to the crowd and declared, "Behold this ascetic and mark the austerity of his discipline. Innumerable eons hence this very recluse will become a Sambuddha, distinguished by his deep understanding of the Dharma, and possessing profound wisdom, compassion, and the ability to guide others towards liberation. This ascetic will be known by the name of Gautama, and will revolve the wheel of Dharma in the world, even as I do today." Having said this, the great Dipankara, together with his entourage, circumambulated Sumedha and worshipped him with 8 handfuls of flowers. Sumedha, endowed with great wisdom and controlled senses, was enraptured with ecstatic joy after hearing the victorious one's words. He then arose from the mud, folded his legs crosswise, and sat down on the flower seat, affirming in front of all, "Yes, a Buddha I shall surely be, for the Buddha speaks nothing but the truth." After Dipankara and his disciples had moved on, Sumedha withdrew into solitude, reflecting on the factors that lead to awakening. He analyzed the Dharma in the 10 directions, surveying the physical, heavenly, and hellish realms. Then, he looked beyond the reaches of samsaric existence to discover what leads to true awakening. As Sumedha delved deeper, he pondered the 24 Buddhas who had gone before him and surveyed the 10 perfecting virtues that all Buddhas must master. The 10 perfecting virtues, the 10 paramitas. Sumedha turned to the 10 perfecting virtues, each forming a piece of the bridge he would build toward awakening, one that would carry countless others across the ocean of existence. The first virtue to arise in Sumedha's stream of consciousness was the perfecting virtue of generosity, dana paramita. This boundless act of unselfish offering, done with no thought of reward, he saw as the very foundation of the path. He came to understand that true generosity must be threefold: the giving of material support, the giving of fearlessness, and the giving of the Dharma, the universal truth of the Buddhas. The true giving of self, he realized, is a continual self-emptying, a pouring out of love, resources, and light for the benefit of all beings, offered with a heart that neither grasps nor clings to the act itself. Guided by wisdom and compassion, he came to understand the art of discernment, how to give neither wasting nor withholding the ultimate gift of the inner light of the real self, and how to receive by knowing when to accept or reject the gifts of others. Then he turned to the second, the perfecting virtue of morality and ethical behavior, sila paramita. Rooted in the luminous clarity of the real self, this virtue calls for harmony with the eternal law of the One, the primordial Adi-Buddha. As Sumedha renounced ego-centered desires, he discovered that right action begins to arise naturally from within. He saw that moral behavior can balance karma and clear the way forward. He came to understand that morality is not simply restraint from wrongdoing, but active compassion expressed through conduct, non-harming, truthfulness, integrity, and generosity. Yet until such purity is firmly established, moral discipline serves as a guiding light, directing the seeker along the path between extremes. Later, he would learn that sila is the very foundation of meditation and wisdom, and that without inner ethics, the mind remains agitated and clouded by erroneous acts and impure intentions held within. He also reflected that true morality must extend beyond self-purification to embrace the liberation of all beings. This is the path of the Bodhisattva. Having perceived the impermanence of the world, Sumedha next committed himself to the third, the perfecting virtue of renunciation, Naishkramya paramita. Letting go of his attachments to this world and its sensations, he withdrew from worldly clinging in order to focus entirely on the liberation of all beings. The ultimate goal of renunciation is to enter the eternal now by transcending the time-space-matter universe that binds the soul to a finite existence governed by mortality. Sumedha realized that true Naishkramya was not a rejection of life, but a rejection of craving, the subtle grasping that binds the heart to suffering. This virtue is not one of depriving oneself, but the freedom born from non-attachment, releasing the lesser in order to attain union with the greater. Sumedha discovered that the joy of renunciation was not a loss, but a profound happiness, a happiness that arises when the heart rests free from craving and nothing is needed. As his contemplation deepened, the fourth perfecting virtue of transcendental wisdom, prajna paramita, arose within him. This wisdom is not merely conceptual, but a direct seeing into the true nature of reality. It recognizes that all phenomena are impermanent, unsatisfactory, and empty of inherent realness. Through meditative insight, Sumedha glimpsed the non-dual truth, that form is emptiness and emptiness is form. He understood that prajna must emerge not from intellect alone, but from the silent, egoless clarity of direct realization. This wisdom opened a new way of seeing. By renouncing the world, he found it easier to relinquish earthly attachments, a path he had just begun to walk. Later, he would see that true wisdom is inseparable from compassion, karuna, that prajna without karuna becomes sterile, and karuna without prajna becomes blind. With clarity came fire, and Sumedha awakened the fifth perfecting virtue of energy and courage, virya paramita. This is the unshakable will to walk the path despite all difficulties, ignited by an inner longing to become a Buddha. It is the courage of the heart to face one's karmic patterns and overcome every obstacle along the way. Sumedha saw that true energy is vigor. It is the flame that keeps the Dharma alive, affirming the soul's potential for awakening. He understood that virya was not fueled by striving, but by the joy of steady practice in life, walking, sitting, standing, and in the weariness of the heart. Thereafter, the sixth, the perfecting virtue of patience, Kisanti Paramita, settled gently into Sumedha's awareness. Patience, he found, is the stillness of pause that brings balance between extremes. It calms desire, softens anger, and makes peace with the slow unfolding of truth. Through patience, Sumedha allowed his cravings and impulses to dissolve, entering the sacred pause where one neither grasps nor resists. Here, he tasted the peace that comes from needing nothing. Patience is the virtue of letting go of desires. It means being patient, forgiving, and kind towards oneself in the long process of becoming the Buddha. In being patient with oneself, one can be patient with others, and one discovers the antidote to most adversities. Patience is the antidote to anger, hatred, and vengeance. It is the antidote to the egoic self, to its pride, its greed, its passions and desires, its jealousies and envies, all of which are delusions or anatta. That which is not the real self. Patience puts things into perspective and brings balance to life, balancing the karma created by the impatience of the past. Patience is living with shortcomings until wisdom ripens and releases the soul from bondage. Sumedha reflected on the three forms of Kisanti: patiently enduring harm or mistreatment from others without retaliation, acceptance of physical or emotional suffering, and tolerance of difficult or contradictory truths. He came to understand that even greater than a victory in battle is the ability to endure a single insult. True patience, he saw, was the armor of the Bodhisattva, the strength to remain open-hearted in the face of adversity. The seventh virtue to arise was the perfecting virtue of truthfulness, Satyaparamita. He understood that this virtue was not merely about outward honesty, but about living in full alignment with the Dharma, with integrity in intent, thought, feeling, word, and deed. It called him to cast aside all pretense, deception, and self-delusion, to be inwardly and outwardly true to the Buddha within. Only those who seek realness, he discerned, can walk the path of enlightenment. Sumedha came to see that truthfulness was not narrow or dogmatic, but a steady devotion to what liberates, even when the truth is difficult, uncomfortable, or invisible to others. Then came the eighth perfecting virtue of resolution, Adhisthana Paramita. In the still depths of his being, Sumedha formed the unshakable inner resolve to attain Buddhahood, not for his own sake alone, but to liberate all sentient life. Resolution is the soul's firm anchor, the vow that endures through lifetimes. No storm could break it, no delay could discourage it, for this vow had become part of his very essence. He reflected that the strength of Adhisthana lies not in force or willpower, but in clarity of purpose, rooted in wisdom, prajna, grounded in truth, satya, and fueled by pure intention. From this firm resolve arose the ninth perfecting virtue of loving-kindness, Maitra Paramita. As Sumedha hallowed his heart to open without boundary or condition, extending unconditional goodwill to all beings, even to those who might harm him. Loving-kindness is not sentiment, not just a feeling, but the radiant compassion of the awakened heart, which sees no separation and no other. In practicing it, he dissolved all barriers of self and other by seeing others as himself. What one does to others one is doing to oneself. He practiced Maitra Bhavana, the cultivation of loving kindness, by radiating goodwill to the 10 directions, beginning with those closest to him, then extending to strangers, enemies, and all beings without exception. He came to understand that Maitri must be unwavering even in the face of hatred, and that its power lies in its capacity to embrace without condition or preference. Sumedha realized that to love fully was to recognize the Buddha nature in all. Last, Sumedha contemplated the 10th and final perfecting virtue of equanimity, Upekkha Paramita. This is the serene balance of the soul that remains unmoved by circumstances, by gain or loss, joy or sorrow, praise or blame. Sumedha came to rest in the still center of being, where attachment and aversion fall away. In that sacred neutrality, he touched the peace of the eternal, the unshaken ground upon which the awakened walk. He understood that upeksahi is not non-caring, but the compassionate impartiality born of wisdom, a deep knowing that all beings are heirs to their karma. It is the final perfection because it safeguards the rest, preventing love from becoming attachment, effort from becoming ambition, and wisdom from hardening into pride. Sumedha realized that in the heart of equanimity, the bodhisattva sees clearly, acts compassionately, and rests in the boundlessness of the present moment. His most profound insight was this: to truly exit samsara, one must cultivate a deep indifference toward life and rebirth themselves. It is the subtle clinging to existence, what the Buddha called bhava tanha, the craving for becoming, that sustains the endless turning of the wheel. It is only when we learn to surrender the need to rebecome that we truly accelerate our homeward journey. The earth shook, rumbled, and quaked. Having understood and made the sacred vow to become a Buddha, like all the Buddhas gone before him, Sumedha pledged himself to the path of the Bodhisattva. He knew that before he could become a Sambuddha, one who can teach others and demonstrate the path, he must master all 10. With this realization, he vowed to pursue each with unwavering resolve. In that very moment, the earth began to shake, rumble, and quake. As the ground shook, the people in the city trembled in fear and turned to the Buddha Dipankara, asking whether they should be afraid. He reassured them, saying, "This is no ordinary trembling of the earth." In the moment Sumedha contemplated the 10 paramitas, he explained, the bodhicitta within him awakened to its own divinity, and with it, the path toward enlightenment became clear to him. This was a shift in consciousness so profound that the universe itself bore witness. Thus, the earth responded, releasing a tremor that echoed through time, a signal that a new age had begun. That same earth, silent and alive, had recognized Sumedha. When a soul of such magnitude finds the path, the very fabric of existence trembles in acknowledgement. The path of a Buddha-to-be had been set, and the universe had marked the moment. Upon hearing the words of Dipankara, the people became calm and free from fear, and were instead filled with great joy. Gathering flowers, fragrant oils, and sacred offerings, they left the city and approached Sumedha, honoring him with their gifts, devotion, and reverence. Soon after being acclaimed, Sumedha retreated into the forest to continue his newfound quest. He spent many incarnations, keeping his resolve to master all 10 paramithas to reach the deathless, birthless state of eternal peace. His journey culminated in the incarnation as Prince Visvantara, in whom all 10 perfecting virtues had ripened. Renowned for his unmatched generosity, when asked for gifts, he gave whatever was asked of him without hesitation. His wealth, his kingdom, and astonishingly, even his beloved wife and children. Yet his faith and virtue remained unshaken. As his trials came to an end, a god appeared before him to let him know he had passed all his tests. Thus, the universe restored all he had given away most dear to him, his wife, children, and country, affirming that the Bodhisattva's path leads not to loss, but to the ultimate fulfillment of one's destiny. Thus, the path of the Bodhisattva is the path of initiation, testing our resolve to overcome all obstacles in search of the One. As he stood amidst his people, whole once more, the prophecy of Dipankara echoed within his soul, a promise of the Buddha to be. Until that day, the 10 perfecting virtues radiated through him, a living testament to the boundless triumph of the human spirit. In the Tashita heaven. After his life as Visvantara, Sumedha transcended this physical existence and was reborn as a god in the Tashita heaven, where the Deva gods reside. What I found so inspiring about this story was that even Gautama prepared himself through many lifetimes before his final embodiment as the Enlightened One. He did not simply descend to earth as a fully self-realized god or avatar, but, like us, he had to work toward his own salvation. After spending an eon as a god in the capital city of Tashita heaven, He was approached by 4 celestial kings who told him that he had fulfilled the 10 perfecting virtues and that the time had come for him to return to earth to become the Buddha and teach the way to end suffering. They exclaimed, "The time of your complete awakening, the assumption of your Buddhahood, has arrived." After hearing them, Sumedha decided to review the case. As he pondered various scenarios, he concluded that the time had come. Roger J. Corliss quotes the Buddha's reflections, saying, quote, "Birth in the hells is clearly unfortunate, for immense suffering is endured there, but birth in the heavens, the Devaloka, or divine realm is also unfortunate, since one's life is then so long and pleasant that one becomes slothful and drops back into the lower regions. Birth as a human is the most fortunate, for this state is at the junction of the divine and the animal, the point at which the web of karma is the weakest. Humans can make choices in ways that animals and deities cannot. Our brains have huge empty spaces which allow us to learn and change to a greater extent than other beings. Therefore, a human has the best chance of realizing the nature of samsara and learning how to break out of it. So, it was necessary for the life that was to become the Buddha to be born as a human." End quote. Sumedha listened and decided to review the case. After his great deliberation, he observed that the celestial kings were right. The time is now aligned for him to return to Earth, as the lifespan of humans only lasts about 100 years, and is the quickest way to balance negative karma and realizing Buddhahood, as they must grapple with the reality of sickness, old age, and death. If humans live to be 1,000 years old, they generally would not pay much attention to such matters, as life would be pleasant and seem endless. Sumedha then gave his promise to the assembly of Devas and went with his Deva friends to the beautiful Nandana grove in the Tashita capital to prepare to die. The Devas recited to him, saying, "Having passed away from here, pass on to a good state of being." The soul of Sumedha, now the greatly wise one, was very satisfied after passing away from the Tashita realm, down into earthly existence again. Sumedha arose in the womb of Queen Maya of the house of Gautama, among the Shakyas in Kapilavastu. Affectionately, they named him Siddhartha.